How I made $250K my first year wholesaling. Guys, it's Rick Ginn. And today's video, I thought I would break down the details of my first year of wholesaling. And I think you guys will get a lot of value out of it. And I think there's a ton of lessons to learn. So if you allow me, I want to share my story from start to finish on my first year. And before we get into it, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, you hit that subscribe notification button so you can continue to receive the best information on wholesaling today. So yes, I was just like most of you watching this video, super excited about wholesaling, and I couldn't wait to deep dive into it. So what I did is, honestly, I took some courses and they were actually terrible. Somebody taught me how to buy rental properties, buy 10 rental properties, and in 10 years you can retire. Well, I tried that. It didn't work at all. I didn't make any money doing it. And honestly, I got a bunch of bank loans. And then that's when I truly discovered wholesaling. And how I discovered it is I went to one of my local RIA groups and I found this great thing called wholesaling. Honestly, when I saw it, I thought it was the most brilliant plan I've ever seen in my life. And I go, man, this is perfect for my character. I'm a high energy person. I love talking to people. I have ADHD. I didn't know at the time. And I decided to dive in 2003 and go full time into wholesaling. Now, what you don't know is I had a full-time job. So I had 2 small children. I had a big fat mortgage. I thought it was a big fat mortgage. And I had a lot of bills and I was in debt. So wholesaling was going to be my ticket out, a lot like you guys can relate. So let me share the story with you. And I'm gonna walk you through how I was thinking my first year of wholesaling, and let me know if it rings true to your story in starting out wholesaling. So the first thing is, after studying wholesaling for basically, I only studied it about 7 to 9 days. I didn't spend a lot of time like absorbing the information because number one, there was very little information out about it. There was really nothing on the internet. And for you to get information back then, people charged 10 and 20 grand back in 2003. It was a lot of money back then. I didn't have it. So what I did is I did the old fashioned way. I networked with people already doing wholesaling and they taught me some basics of the business. They didn't teach me a lot, but just enough to get started. And I want you to understand, you don't need to know everything about wholesaling. God knows I didn't. Here's the one fundamental thing that was taught to me, and it still rings true to this day. I learned that marketing was my main focus. I had to become a super marketer, period. Now keep in mind, I've only bought like 2 or 3 pieces of real estate before I even started wholesaling, and they were my personal homes. So you could say I was definitely a novice. I was definitely a rookie. Now, if I understood that marketing was the first thing I really had to master for wholesaling, it was one of the defining moments why I did so well in wholesaling in my first year. Some of you are struggling thinking marketing is just a side product. You see, most businesses, they have a product, they have office, they have employees, they have customers, and they think of marketing as it's just an expense. You got to get through the procedures. Marketing and wholesaling is completely different. It is everything. You have to become an amazing marketer. If you don't understand marketing, you cannot get motivated sellers and you're never going to get a wholesaling deal. This was beaten into my head, and it's probably one of the best favors an old timer taught me in the wholesaling business. You have to be a master marketer. If you understand that, you'll understand the rest of my journey here. Number 2, I was beaten in my head. Rick, only deal with motivated sellers. Now, I'd like to tell you I took that advice. I did in the beginning, but I waned. I tried to force everyone to sell me their house. As I've told you, you can't make people sell you their house. Either they're motivated to sell it to you, you resonate with them, they like you, and they sell you your property. You're never going to be like a slick Grant Cardone person and make people sell your house. Remember, these aren't fancy cars. These aren't used cars. Either you're a good fit and the timing's right and they sell you your house, or they don't. You are not a real estate agent. You are not trying to convince them to list the house for top dollar. I was also taught that wholesaling is a full-time gig. There is no such thing as a hobbyist wholesaler. It doesn't work. Why? Because you won't get enough experience. You won't talk to enough people. And Rick, if you try to do this extreme part-time, you're going to fail. But wait a minute. I have a full-time job. I can't quit it yet. I have to make my first 100 grand before I leave this job because I gotta cover the healthcare. I got to pay my mortgage. And so I took on my full-time job and full-time wholesaling, 24 hours in a day. How you prioritize it is completely up to you. Someone told me that, and I'm here to tell you, if you're in this same predicament, don't make an excuse, just make it happen. I was also taught wholesaling is the farthest thing from passive income you will ever learn. So Rick, you need to learn to buy houses today at a discount. It doesn't matter what the market, if it's going up or down. You are not a speculator looking for future prices. You're looking at the discount today. If you do that, you will always make a ton of money in wholesaling. And honestly, guys, this is the foundation of how I started my wholesaling career. And from that point on, I decided to go on a massive manhunt for motivated sellers by using multiple marketing methods, which I'm going to share with you right now. I also accepted I did not know a lot about real estate. Actually, I knew very little, but I knew that I had to talk to a lot of people. And if I committed to talking to as many people as humanly possible, I could get other people to help me figure out the problems that come up in real estate. To be honest with you, I had so many problems that pop up, had no clue. What I figured out, it was my job to find motivated sellers. That was my high skill set. And honestly, when you get down to the core of wholesaling, that's all it is. You see, real estate agents try to be an expert in everything in real estate. Wholesalers are an expert at connecting with motivated sellers and going out and finding them. Once you understand that skill set, you can learn all the other stuff over time, or you can pay people to do it. And the last bit of advice I was told by an old timer was, Rick, just tell the truth. And if you don't know the answer, go get someone to help you for it and get back to them as soon as possible. And I have stuck to that philosophy for 21 years. And you know why it works? Because when you tell the truth, you don't have to memorize fake answers. And the problem is, once you start telling lies, it's hard to keep track of all the lies you tell. And for that reason, if you just tell the truth up front with your sellers, they're okay if you don't know the answer, but the worst thing you do is lie to them, because when you get caught in a lie, you lose 100% all credibility, and that's the last thing you want to do in wholesaling. So the first question I get is like, Rick, how'd you get your first few deals? Now, I had old timers like teaching me, and they were rough on me, okay? Now, I had to split the first few deals I did with them. That was my coaching fee at the time, but I was fine with it. And honestly, if you can find someone that'll do that with you, it is one of the best ways to get a true mentor. You see, we're in a society where everybody wants their money up front. And then if they really believed in you, why wouldn't they just split your first few deals with you? I still subscribe, me and Zach subscribe to that theory today, because it's a win-win for everybody involved. You've got to do the work. If you're not going to do the work, I'm not going to spend the time teaching you the business. So what they did is they gave me a pre-foreclosure list. And they go, Rick, here's 60 some odd pre-foreclosures. I'm like, well, what do I do? They literally wrote a script for me. It was terrible. The script was so bad. I can't even tell you. So basically, I would go get the addresses, and this was a long time ago. I actually had to get a map booklet. So we had a map booklet, and things got really advanced a couple of years later with MapQuest. And then we had those funky GPS things you put on your dash. But I would go map out all the addresses, and I would go knock on the door. And you ready? You want to hear what my opening line is? It was so bad. But back then, not a lot of people were doing it. I can't help but see you have a pending problem with your property here. Are you interested in me helping you out with it? The amount of doors slammed in my face, the amount of people that spit on me, and the amount of dogs chased me, I still have nightmares about it today. But it broke me. The reason the old timer put me through this, and I still use this philosophy training you guys today, is, Rick, if you will do it, if you'll go knock on 60 doors, I'll work with you. If you knock on 2 and quit, I don't want to give you the time of day. So they gave me the hardest task up front. And I'm happy to say, after 60 some odd doors I knocked on, I got 3 people to really talk to me. And I actually got 2 contracts. And those contracts yield a whopping $60,000. Now, I'd like to tell you they split it with me. They didn't. I think I got $10,000 or $15,000. And honestly, I was super happy about it. And I'm here to tell you, is if you do the hardest task up front, meaning you do the hard stuff up front, this business is much easier on the back end. But most of you are being trapped in a society where gurus and all sorts of people try to show you the easy way up front so they can sell you something, and then it's super hard on the back end. I'm here to tell you, I love the philosophy of someone that will take action even in spite of a huge obstacle. I don't want you to be at risk or anything like that. Remember, when I door knocked, there was no laws against it. There was no Ring cameras. And honestly, it was the fastest way to connect people Honestly, it was the best technique when I started out in 2003. Things have changed today. So when I did it, I wound up doing 5 total deals door knocking in my first 3 months. I'm going to be honest with you, the first 3 days I door knocked, I got sick to my stomach. I almost puked in front of 2 people. And I went home like a little crybaby to my wife saying, I'm not sure I can do this. I swear to you, that's how it went down. But once I got over it and I go, hey, these people aren't going to hurt me, even though I got spit on, I got threatened with violence, and I had dogs chase me, I still kept showing up day after day to do it. I really had the conviction to really want to win as a wholesaler, and getting 5 deals and doing it really the hardest way you possibly can prepared me for the rest of my journey in wholesaling. So then I learned a simple technique was driving for dollars. Remember, guys, somebody taught me this that's been doing it for 30 years. So it wasn't invented. They didn't do it with any software. They go, Rick, just get in your car and drive and look for ugly houses. Take a pen and paper and just write the addresses down. And then what we would do is we door knocked them back then. I didn't even call on them. Or we'd send them a piece of mail. Or we'd leave it like a note next to the door. I didn't have a system with it. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew when I saw tall grass, boarded up windows, tarps on the roof, there was a problem. And I didn't know how to do it, but people were more receptive back to it then. So people had less knowledge, but there was more opportunity. So it doesn't matter. So today you have more knowledge and less opportunity, but there's more people in this world. So eventually it all weighs out to it. I was scared to death. I did it. I wound up doing 6 deals from driving for dollars. And to be honest with you, I got a little cocky at that point. And then I went through a very, very, like a 2 or 3 month dry spell. And then what I decided to do after I did the 6 driving for dollars, I was still trying to figure out how to comp stuff. I had to go to realtors. I spent way too much time comping stuff. That's why I teach you guys the 10-minute comp rule. Once I figured out I didn't have to comp stuff, I just got to find highly motivated sellers. I then reached out to realtors. And I took a business approach to realtors. I found all the new realtors that got a license, and I found realtors that were in the business 15 plus years that were struggling to do deals. And all I did was I called them. You didn't even have to skip trace them. All their number, you could print it out through someone who had MLS access. They would give you all the phone numbers. So I got a list of a couple hundred agents. And from that list, I had 5 or 6 that would meet with me. So I did all the phone calls. I met with the realtors. And I learned how to do preconditioned realtors, which means, listen, you come across a lot of deals, 95% of the real estate deals. If you ever have a seller that has a house that's in terrible shape, they're embarrassed with it, it needs a lot of repairs, or they don't want people going through it, give me a call. I can offer them a fair price and I'll pay your full commission. And from that technique, I bought 4 houses. It was amazing. Honestly, they brought me the deals. I paid them their full 3%. They all begged me to relist it. And honestly, I wholesaled every one of those houses because I didn't have a lot of money at the time and I just needed to churn cash. You see, in the beginning, you're trying to prove the concept of wholesaling. And once you prove it, you have to prove with your own self-confidence that you can do it. And then you got to put money in your bank account to prove it to your family and everyone around you that this is a legitimate business. So my only focus was working with sellers. I could have cared less about dispositions. To be honest with you, I gave a lot of these properties away. I made 10 to 15 grand on my average deal. I probably could have made double that on half the deals, but I wasn't good at dispositions. I completely focused on marketing and working with sellers. I figured I would figure that part out down the road. And don't worry, I did. So all I did was teach these realtors, like you said, give me your failed listings, give me your ugliest houses, and then give me your most difficult properties to sell. And let me at least write an offer for it. And what I found out is they already knew what their seller's bottom line number was. So on this type of deal is these realtors mostly gave me off-market properties before they went on the market, and they were preconditioned. And that's my favorite way to work with a realtor, and it's always worked. And I never went on MLS. It was a complete waste of my time. And this is how I got 4 deals working with realtors. Now, at this point, I've taken it down about 15 deals, and I'm about 7 months into my first year. I'm getting excited. I'm making a lot of contacts. People want to reach out. People want to JV and work with me. All the wholesalers came to me. They go, dude, there's this dude, Rick. He's like, I don't know how he gets these contracts. So he gets them from everywhere. And they were taking my deals, giving me my assignment contracts, and they were making another 20 grand off of me. And honestly, I didn't even care at the time. I knew eventually I would get all that money. And so I stopped focusing on how much I sold it for. And I just kept lining and filling up my pipeline because the old timer says you have to keep your pipeline full. Now, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I worked 7 days a week and I took very little breaks. I was still doing my full-time job. After I did my 4th deal with a realtor, I was up to 15. I quit my job. That's right. I quit at the greatest day of my life, one of my greatest days of my life. I fired my boss. They tried to give me a monster pay raise. They tried to give me a very custom company car. I worked with them almost 12 years and I said, I don't want to do it. I know if I do this, even though I was doing it full time, now I could do a full commitment. And I went all in and I decided to do this scary thing called direct mail. And somebody taught me, if you use direct mail, you can actually scale your business. You see, Rick, you can only drive so many driving for dollars. You can only knock on so many doors. I didn't hire anyone at this point. And in your first year, you try to do as much as you can until you can't stand, like you don't have enough time to do it. So I started out doing direct mail. I did small batches, 500 to 1,500 pieces. And honestly, we hand wrote a lot of our stuff because I wanted the best response. And I knocked it out of the park with direct mail. All I did was I focused on postcards. And here was my secret that I did back then that I still teach you today that still works. And I want you to understand this. I used government list. And I'm going to tell you the government list I focused back on early 2003, part of 2004. And it was tax delinquencies, code violations. Those were my go-to list. I had the best response. And to this day, they are still some of the most highest producing lists. And they're free to get. They're not easy to get, but they don't cost you any money, but you're going to have to earn getting these lists. And all I did was I focused on those lists. I did do some absentee owners back then. It was a different world back then. You had to buy the list. It was expensive, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 every time I pulled it. And I did really well. And I did so well, I did another 20 deals over the next, 5.5, 6 months. And then within that first year, I wound up doing about 35 deals. Now, my average per deal was $10,000 to $12,000. Yes, I had expenses. And by the time I netted it off, I wound up with a net number of around $250,000. And that was in my first year. I want you to understand this. You don't need to be me. There's only one Rick Ginn. We all operate in different markets. We have different resources and we have different abilities to learn information. And all you have to do is get better every day. Honestly, I think I was a little bit of a freak out of the gate, but that's just how I am. If I love something and I'm all in and I believe it and someone can prove to me it works and then I prove it works, I go all in. And if you're that type of person, I want to show you how to do it. Start over going at freewholesaling.com. I will show you how to get started in this business. I love this business. I've been in this business 21 years. And I remember the story I'm telling you right now like it was yesterday. I love every part of this business. I actually loved it so much the first 7 years, I did the entire business myself with an occasional VA here and there and my wife helping me out. And then I went through a lot of growing pains. And you guys have kind of heard the entire story from there. And here I am, fast forward 21 years later, more deals than I know what to do with. I do them all over the country. I do my local market. I do virtual markets. And I have a passion teaching you guys this business. I want to get you your first deal. Not only your first deal, get you your first 100 grand. And I teach this business completely different. And if you listen to the beginning part of my story, I focus on the fundamentals of wholesaling. And the reality is most people make this business super complicated. If you just take the basic mechanics of wholesaling, find motivated sellers and only spend time with motivated sellers and specialize on marketing to them, the rest of it is actually rudimentary. You see, it's not actually about real estate. It's about helping people and connecting with people. And if you can learn how to market and hunt and find motivated sellers, there is no limit on wholesaling. The only limit is to what you limit yourself to. So go out there and get a deal. Let me know in the comments if my story resonates with you. I hope it inspires you. It is the truth, guys. It wasn't all roses. I had a lot of ups and downs on it, and I always questioned myself. But eventually, I went all in, and I believed in myself. And that's why I'm sitting in front of this camera. So guys, if you got value from this video, do me a favor. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe notification button so I can continue to bring you the truth about wholesaling. Guys, this is Rick Ginn, and I'll see you in the next video.